Hello, Bill.
Good morning, Matt.
Welcome to the DMZ, everybody.
So it is Thursday morning. I don't know about you. I get into a bad loop after debates where I'm just like looking at Twitter for too long and should just go to bed, but want to see if something has transpired post debate that I need to know, and I can't stop.
No, that happens. It happened to me the other night when I had to be on TV at 12:15 a.m. and I could have gone to bed. I was sleepy at on the ride to do it. I could have fallen asleep, but then once it's over, you're keyed up, and you can't just go to sleep. And I think the same thing when you watch a debate and you're tweeting about a debate. You can't just, okay, it's over at 11. I'm going to go right to sleep.
Right.
I mean, these are the sacrifices that those of us at the tip of the spear, Bill, bringing people their commentary that they have to have, that we must endure some sleepless nights.
Now, I have to say, Matt, I didn't write about it publicly, but I did tweet beforehand that I thought it could well be a mistake for Bloomberg to do this debate at all.
Yeah.
He had created this mythical Bloomberg through his ads, who was somehow going to be this invincible Trump killer, and
it was working. I mean, it was working. Why mess that up?
Right.
Right.
And I mean, I think he could have said, I'm not competing in Nevada, so I need to do this. He could say, these debates are a joke. It's a reality TV show. They're not real debates. I got no obligation to participate in them at all.
Or he could have said, he could have said that and then said, but I'm going to do a town hall counter programming, or I'm going to do a rally or something. Yeah. He could have.
But even then, he has gone as far as he had without subjecting himself to any kind of intense scrutiny. And the whole gambit was, I'm going to overwhelm you with saturation propaganda, so I don't have to do that. Because that's not what his strong suit is, his actual campaigning.
Well, and let's drill down on this a little bit, because I don't think people quite understand. I mean, I'm sure our viewers understand because they're very sophisticated, but I think people intuitively know, but they don't really think about when you are able to. It's not just that you're spending hundreds of millions of dollars on ads, but it's that you are curating your image. You can control the picture of you if it's a good picture. What the angle is, during a TV ad, the music. It really is. I mean, I think you called it propaganda. I mean, you are able to control your image in a way that when you're in a debate or even a rally, it's out of your hands. And so you can really put your best foot forward, and that's what Bloomberg has been doing.
I mean, I don't even watch that much TV, but I have seen or heard more Bloomberg ads than anybody. A
lot of YouTube clips or pre-roll video.
I've seen Bloomberg ads when I play Words with Friends. He sent direct mail pieces to my mother and gave my mom's mail, so I see that. I hear them. I listen to CNN or MSNBC through my Amazon Echo, and I've heard ads through that. I'm not. Sometimes it might be because he placed it on CNN, or it might be through the TuneIn app that I use to listen to these things. So one ad that I've heard.
So you're somebody who is trying to insulate yourself and essentially hide from political advertising in some ways, and you're getting it.
I often seek it out because I want to see what they're doing, but it's because I see a reporter on Twitter say, "Here, there's a new ad up," and I'll go choose to watch it. But I'm actually getting Bloomberg ads without trying, much more so than anybody else.
Right.
And so one ad that I heard a bunch is narrated by Michael Douglas.
Yep.
And it tells a story about when Michael Bloomberg got fired in his 30s and he picked himself back up and he started a new business, this scrappy little doer. And, I'm not steeped in Bloomberg history. And then I just saw Politico had a piece yesterday, 55 Things You Didn't Know About Bloomberg, where it said when he got fired from his Wall Street job, he got a $10 million payout. and he used that money to start the new business, which is not exactly your typical rags to riches story. But that's
Look,
not in the ad.
I mean, I have to say, I don't know how that plays in a Democratic primary. There's some evidence that his ads are certainly working, right, to a certain degree. I mean, they've propelled him. But
I got to tell you,
I can just say, speak for myself, if I didn't know as much as I know about politics and Bloomberg, those ads, I would find those ads would speak to me. It's certainly in a general, let's say it's a general election. I have my same worldview. I'm the same person, but I'm not really paying close attention to politics. I don't know the nuances of Mike Bloomberg's tenure as mayor of New York City. I think I would hear those ads and I would like them, and I think I may vote for him over Trump.
Well, I'll say this:
I'm that person.
For my own reaction to his ads was always, this is it? You got all this money, and these are the best ads you can do. These are very cookie cutter, political consultant, paint by numbers ads. There's nothing creative about this. And this notion that he's so super focused on Trump, well, all the early Biden ads are super focused on Trump too. That's not ingenious. That's just sort of.
I think
Hold on 1 second though. So that was just my reaction was I'm not super impressed here. Anecdotally, I have talked to a number of people who have said to me, "Oh, Mike Bloomberg, those odds are pretty good." I mean, that guy maybe can take on Trump. I'm like, these are people who read the news. They're not they're not low information voters. So I have seen evidence that it was working on some people. Now, I will still insist it is not the quality of the ads. It is the quantity of the ads. The constant repetition that is working on people and making you think this shows he has the resources to overwhelm Trump. And I've seen other anecdotal evidence in news reports where people think, Bloomberg's not going to be intimidated by Trump. Clearly he has what it takes. And it's based on such little information that perhaps has now been punctured by seeing him on a stage with actual other human beings and him not being very intimidating, not being very quick on his feet, not having all the answers at his fingertips, and getting a very negative response from the crowd in the room, which obviously is not a cross-section of America, but it doesn't help with the optics of feeling how to handle yourself in these situations.
I have a lot to say. So first of all, it's hard for me to differentiate between the quality of the ads and the quantity, because there may very well be a great Amy Klobuchar ad that I've just never even seen. So obviously, if
there hasn't been. I'll tell you that right now.
Okay. But my point is, yes, you have to have the money to fund it or it doesn't matter. But there's this comedian, I forget who it was, but the joke was during a hurricane or something, or a tornado, getting hit by something. It's not that the wind is blowing, it's what the wind is blowing. Mm-hmm. And I think ads can be the same way. Like you could run a lot of bad ads and they won't help you. I feel like the Bloomberg ads are really good. I feel like they're really good at showing someone who would appeal to someone like me, and they do imply that he's tough and that he can stand up to Trump. So I think they're very good. I'm not convinced that Bloomberg's debate performance will hurt him or was that bad. So I think the biggest mistake so first of all, I agree with you. He probably shouldn't have debated to begin with. That was probably a strategic error. But if he was going to go there, he's walking into the lion's den. And I think the biggest mistake he could make is to try to pander, to try to be woke, to start apologizing. And
he did apologize on Stop and Frisk.
That's my point. I think that was his worst moment of the night. I don't care that he was being attacked for being a billionaire. I actually think he seemed feisty. I think he seemed tough. He wasn't going to win over the audience. He wasn't going to win over his competitors. But I think the one time where he really did mess up was on Stop and Frisk, where I don't think he pleased anybody, right? He he sort of apologized, which is probably bad politics in the Trumpian world, but he also made excuses. Like, it wasn't a clean apology. So really, I think it was like a lose-lose.
I mean, there was sort of I'm really sorry for this, but it did stop crime. So, how bad can you really be?
Right. And I think, like, look, you could pick one of those 2 points, but I don't think you can do both. I think it was not a good moment. But the other stuff, I mean, if you read the columns out there, the articles or Twitter, you would get the impression that Bloomberg was massacred and was destroyed. I don't think it was as bad as people are making it out to be.
Well, I think it's more than the stop and frisk. I think he was really hammered on the NDAs. He did not look good in that exchange at all. And I think his whole demeanor, I don't think he was feisty. I think he was arrogant and condescending and had this attitude of, I shouldn't have to justify my existence to you cretins because you're all a bunch of socialist numbnuts, and this is pathetic that I even have to bother being on a stage with you.
Here's the thing, though. I kind of think that might work, though. Like, if you had asked me this 5 years ago, if we were talking about this 5 years ago, everything I knew about politics or thought I knew about politics, I would have agreed with exactly what you just said. Like, he seems aloof and elitist, and he's this rich, strong man who doesn't need to deign to engage with us. It was very because I had basically learned the lessons of Bill Clinton. What's your name? When he's like during the town hall, and he's like, if someone got laid off where I'm from, I probably know him by name. That was. I felt like you had to be emotive and compassionate and feel people's pain. Trump is changed a lot of those rules, and so I'm not sure.
But Trump connected. I mean, Trump still connected in an emotional way. It wasn't in an empathetic way, but it still was. He connected with that conservative Republican voter who wanted to make liberal media heads explode and not dance to their tune. And he did that over and over again in every Republican debate and in the general election debates. Even though you could say, well, he lost these debates on points, he was connecting in a very visceral way. Who did Bloomberg connect with last night? I mean, give me one thing Bloomberg said that was unique in any way to say, wow, you have something that these other candidates don't have, a policy, a take, a critique of the system, anything.
He was I think you're being too hard on him. I think you're being too hard on him. I think that he, and by the way, let me just say, I think my last column was about Amy, but one of my most recent columns at the Daily Beast was basically arguing that Bloomberg is an authoritarian. So I'm not a Bloomberg fan, but this is political analysis that I'm attempting to do here from my standpoint, from my perspective. I think so. First of all, I view the campaign as a sort of gestalt thing, right? I mean, like, I'm looking at the totality of his campaign. He is reaching people with hundreds of millions of dollars of ads, talking about his background as a scrappy kid who pulled himself up by his bootstraps. That's the connection. On stage, I think he demonstrated toughness. I think he demonstrated that he's not going to be he's not into these pie-in-the-sky socialist utopian schemes that Bernie and Warren buy into.
Well, other candidates are doing that. I mean, Biden does that. Buttigieg does that. Klobuchar does that. He's not unique there. So first of all, what makes this interesting is he's not on the ballot in Nevada, right? He's not even on the ballot in South Carolina. Correct.
So it's going to be hard to test. I mean, I'm sure there'll be some polling or something, but it's going to be hard for us to really test what impact this debate had on Bloomberg, because by the time he's on the ballot, some of this will probably be forgotten. Is there another debate, Bill Scher? When's the next debate?
Tuesday.
Okay. And I know he's qualified for it.
Yes.
I assume he can't duck out now.
He can't back out now. I think you could have said, screw this for all eternity, but once you do one, you're in. You're obviously ducking.
Right. And now if he gets out, it looks weak. It looks bad.
Now, one of the things that wasn't talked about so much last night, but I do think is relevant here, is that Scher was not in the debate. Scher had gotten into the two prior debates. He got into those debates based strictly on Nevada and South Carolina polls alone. He's never done well in national polls. He never did well in Iowa and New Hampshire polls. And he is super frustrated because there's no sign of these lost support in Nevada and South Carolina, but there haven't been enough of those polls in the window the DNC has created to qualify based on Nevada and South Carolina alone. And so he's been shut out. And so as of today, he has 0 qualifying polls for the South Carolina debate. Now, it could be he needs 2 polls in South Carolina that he's 12% or over. And based on past polling, if 2 polls came out between now and Monday, he would probably get in, but we don't know if there are 2 polling outfits that are DNC sanctioned that are going to do that.
I hope not. I felt like last night's debate, the Vegas debate, was the best debate we've had, just from an entertainment value and from a relevance value. And part of the reason it was good is every single person on that stage deserved to be there. You could say Bloomberg bought his way in, but he is relevant. Look, I like it or not, everybody there, and I think everyone there brought it. I mean, they were finally debating.
Now, the last poll I saw in South Carolina, which was a change poll, and I don't believe that is a qualifying poll for the DNC, but I think it came out yesterday. It was essentially a 3-way tie between Biden, Bernie, and Steyer. I mean, Steyer was clearing 20%. Now, I think there is still an argument to say, look, if you're doing good in one state and you're nowheresville everywhere else, then that's not good enough to be on the debate stage. So don't cry that you didn't get in. I mean, I think that is an argument, but it's really an argument to say, look, I am literally contending to win this state and I can't be on the debate stage, which, if that is the case, if he doesn't get on, man, is that good for Biden. I mean, the only shot I think Biden has of getting back in this thing, I mean, one was Bloomberg debate flop. He needs Bloomberg to sink, so he's not dominant on Super Tuesday. I think he probably needs second in Nevada. Maybe he can spin a decent third, but I think a 4th or 5th would be a real serious problem for him for South Carolina. But as long as Biden seems like he's still in this thing for South Carolina, he can probably beat Bernie in an effective one-on-one. But Steyer is doing a Bloomberg there. He has been flooding the zone with ads, and there's lots of reporting to say that lots of voters who were kind of soft Biden are saying, I'm not sure Biden's got the juice. Man, the Steyer guy looks pretty good. Biden would love it if Steyer was not on the debate stage on Tuesday. And if Bloomberg's there, so what? Bloomberg's not on the ballot in South Carolina.
Yeah.
And you can't write in South Carolina.
I wonder if Biden could have avoided debates.
No.
If there was a scenario where Biden could have front porch campaigned it or something.
No. I mean, you argue he front porched it too much as it is. Let
me ask you this: would Biden be better off if he had not participated in any debates?
Well, the debates were definitely part of the weakest element of his campaign activity. He is clearly not at his best in a multi-candidates environment. I mean, when he's trying to, he hasn't mastered the ability to do a tight 1-minute answer that's thematically potent. He keeps trying to wedge in all these facts and figures.
Yeah, too much.
And it's not his strong suit.
the debate last night, the first half hour was like the moderators were running this hurry up offense. It was bang, bang, bang. And the candidates really upped their game and elevated their game. I think they rose to the occasion. They've gotten better. And there was even the first time it went to Biden, the first like 30 seconds, I'm like, he's really pretty good. And then he just kept talking.
He is consistently inconsistent. I saw, if you do happen to care this much, the Clark County Democratic dinner, which I saw on C-SPAN, unquestionably best Biden speech of the entire race. Wow. It was tight. It was emotional. It was very focused on guns. Like he's trying to stick it to Bernie in two areas for Nevada. One is guns. He's hitting the gun manufacturer immunity issue very hard. I mean, Vegas had one of the worst mass shootings of all time. He brought up
this was at the country. It was like a country music concert, right?
Right. And so Biden was really on point at that Clark County dinner. I mean, he brought it up again in the debate last night, but I don't think as strongly. But I saw another Vegas, appearance where it's sort of your usual meandering Biden, kind of low key, chit-chatty, all over the map. That's the kind of stuff that's not great for him. The other way he's been trying to get at Bernie, which I'm somewhat surprised by, is hitting him on his vote against the 2007 immigration reform bill. And you may, and I can't know if this is from the Biden campaign, but I have seen in my Twitter feed a few times the appearance that Bernie gave on Lou Dobbs back during that time, where he's not literally.
Is this CNN back then? Was Lou Dobbs on CNN?
Lou Dobbs had done the pivot away from being CNN Moneyline, the business reporter, and going full tilt nativist anti-immigrant. And, Bernie wasn't agreeing with everything Lou Dobbs had to say, but he wasn't disagreeing. And he was making his own points, and they were both essentially on the same page that the bill on the table was bad because it was going to bring in workers for low wages and undercut American workers. So I've seen that kind of percolating on Twitter. Biden, in the closing statement, I mean, I can't even remember the last time someone in the closing statement did a late hit on another candidate, where he brings up that Bernie was against this bill in 2007, and there would have been 6 million legalized immigrants if that bill had passed. I don't know if that's a factual statement or not, but it's what he said. And then I saw Biden in the MSNBC Post-debate interview bring it up twice. So it made me think that this wasn't some sort of random statement. This is, hello, Laz.
Hi. Can I have money to go to Cereals Pharmacy and get tissues?
Sure. But I don't know if you can find my wallet's on the dining room table.
Okay.
Is Simone coming with you?
I don't know.
You can ask her. Sorry. What was I saying? So I'm curious to see. I mean, it's Thursday. We only got 48 hours till the caucus. Are there going to be ads where Biden is hitting Bernie on this vote? I mean, Bernie is seen as being very dominant with Latinos. There's some evidence that is largely because of the youth, the median age of the Latino community, where Bernie is strong with young people in general. There's polling that suggests that older Latinos are not so impressed with Bernie.
So you're saying, I think you said Biden is strong. You mean Bernie is strong with
Bernie
Latinos.
is strong with Latinos, but particularly younger Latinos. I mean, the Latino community is the lowest median age of any, racial or ethnic demographic group. So is it because people love Bernie on his immigration platform, or because they like Bernie because they're young and they like democratic socialism? I think it's more the latter. But obviously I can't speak for the entire Latino community, which is hardly a monolithic bloc in the first place. But the point is, if Biden can make some inroads there, galvanize the older Latinos by pushing this argument. There's one piece in Politico that said Biden's not even running Spanish language ads to suggest maybe he's not thinking through this well enough, or just is conceding the Latino vote to Bernie. But one of his campaign people said, well, Biden's better with older Latinos, and they don't watch Spanish language media anyway. They're watching English language media, so we don't have to pander to them in that way. I mean, we'll see if that's actually true or not. But I'm curious to see, if it's just a couple comments.
You only have 3 $1 bills.
That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. If it's only a few comments on debate night, probably not enough people see that. If you're driving it with an ad campaign, is it a signal to the super PAC that's with Biden that they do the nasty ad against Bernie? Would it have an impact? I mean, I can't say, but the fact that he did that in such a deliberate way made me think there's a strategy there.
Yeah. Now, Elizabeth Warren was really on last night.
Yes.
She was tough. She had a lot of zingers.
Yep.
She was throwing a lot of elbows. I think she really went after Bloomberg, probably provides cover for Bernie, which is weird in as much as presumably Bernie should be her main rival. What was your take on?
But she threw some elbows at Bernie, too. I mean, I think she had something negative to say about everybody but Biden, which is, Biden kind of got off the lightest. Not to say that's necessarily good for him because maybe you want to be in the mix, but she had shots at Pete, she had shots at Amy, and she hit Bernie on his supporters' behavior, and she did have a ding at him when she was going through why everyone's health care plan was not as good as hers, and she pointed out that Bernie's didn't have the details as thought through, and one of his advisors said it's not even going to happen, which is a reference to AOC's comment that maybe it ends up being public option, that's not so bad. So I saw some commentary on Twitter that, everyone's laying off of Bernie when he's the guy who's winning. And my reaction was, I don't think that's really true. I mean, other folks were going at Bernie. Pete kept talking about being very dismissive of revolution, and Biden has his shots, and Bloomberg called him out for having 3 houses, and Warren had her shots. So, but to get back to Warren's situation, I think she did what she had to do. She had to get up off the mat. She had to be a relevant factor to not be an afterthought in Nevada and South Carolina. And to the extent that she wasn't solely focused on Bernie, who is her main problem, she does not win without getting back Bernie voters or some Bernie voters. It's also the case that everybody in Nevada is basically competing for second place because they don't think they can beat Bernie. Remember, early votes already happened. And we don't know what the percentage of the vote's going to be, but there was a lot of early vote. And evidence that Bernie
another
didn't.
Another argument against early voting.
I would not early vote before the final debate, before the final election day. That's not a great idea. Now, I'm sure there's some people like, man, Warren was good. Maybe I should have voted early for her.
I think there was early voting before Trump's Access Hollywood comments came out.
Yeah, but maybe not that much. But there was heavy early voting in Nevada, heavily promoted, heavily participated, that now is not allowed. Like you can't. The early voting ended, so you have to wait till Saturday now. So to the extent that she has to get ahead of Biden and Buttigieg and Klobuchar, and that's vice versa for everybody else in that group, it makes sense that they go after each other. It does not make sense to solely focus on Bernie or Bloomberg because they're not their main competitors for Nevada.
Well, I felt like Warren was really going after Bloomberg as a foil more than Bernie.
Yeah, I mean, she wants to show the way I savage Bloomberg is the way I'm going to savage Trump. And that's the takeaway that a lot of people had, at least on social media, man, I'd love to see us against Trump. Now, I don't think it is perfectly parallel because the way Trump responds to Warren is not the way Bloomberg responded to Warren last night. And Bloomberg is also hamstrung.
It's not like Trump didn't get hit on stuff. I mean, look, I don't think Hillary Clinton's a great candidate, but she did better than people remember during debates.
She was a very tough debater.
She would play it out. Megyn Kelly, I mean, I know that was a Republican primary, but Megyn Kelly, I mean, Trump it's not like Trump just skated on all of his crazy things he said. It was presented, and people didn't care that much, or a lot of people didn't.
Right.
Not enough people did.
I mean, Warren, I'm not saying Warren can't beat Trump. I'm not making that argument. But it's not going to be because she wins a debate on points, just like it wasn't the case for Hillary to beat Trump on points. Yeah,
Hillary won at least, 2 of the 3 debates, probably.
I think based on post-debate polling, it was all 3. It didn't matter because Trump still connected with his base through his style, and he had enough votes in the states where it mattered, and was also able to undercut Hillary through a very devious social media campaign.
I think it gets when we go back to who won those debates. The one right after Access Hollywood, I think I said Trump won because he survived it. Mm-hmm. Like, she might have actually won on points, but the fact that that the debate happened and Trump was on stage for 2 or 3 hours and they talked about like the environment or something, you know what I mean? Like something that wasn't just access, like that he survived that night intact meant he had won it.
Right. I mean, Bloomberg, when Bloomberg was hit with making sexist remarks, he didn't respond with more sexist remarks the way Trump did in the late stages of 2016. Basically saying, screw you, I'm gonna objectify women and insult their looks, and I'm gonna objectify and insult Hillary's looks all I want. Try to stop me. And, Bloomberg didn't go calling Warren Pocahontas the way Trump is going to. Look, you want someone who's going to be tough versus Trump and not wilt in the heat. And no question, Warren's not going to wilt in the heat. I think she, at minimum, proved that much. Yeah. And look, maybe that is enough to get her back in the mix. I mean, if she can get over 15%.
She did well.
She's not getting over 15% without taking a piece of Bernie. It may not mean she beats Bernie, but she may hold him down. And if she holds him down, people looked at that California poll that came out where Bernie was in the low 30s and people were kind of clustered around 15 or lower. And that creates the possibility that Bernie could literally win all of the California delegates. I mean, it probably wouldn't work out quite like that. But maybe some people speculate that it was possible he could really run the table there. And that would, there's 400 plus delegates in California. Hillary won California in 2008 and got a net of 38 delegates. It's a big difference between having a net of 38 and having a net of 400. And that only happens if Bernie has really consolidated the left and the moderates are squabbling. If Warren's back in there, then that kind of scenario doesn't happen. And they're all really playing. As you saw at the end of the debate last night, when they were asked about if you have the most votes, should you get the nomination? They're all playing for a contested convention. If Warren can be viable, if she has a hardcore 15 to 20%, she's getting her share of delegates and she's getting money, she doesn't quit. She stays around. Yeah. She can be a player at the convention. Maybe she's not the nominee, but she might be able to say, hey, you make me attorney general. You make me treasury secretary. I don't want VP. I'm not going to be a potted plant for you. I'm gonna bust some heads at AG, and you better put me there if you want my delegates. I mean, that I think is not an implausible scenario.
Well, look, Amy Klobuchar is a better running mate, partly because of age, because whoever the nominee is will probably be already in their 70s. I think Amy Klobuchar would be a better debater against Trump than Warren, actually. I think it's it's like a jujitsu thing, right? I think Trump can mock and rhetorically hit Warren and get away with it and people will laugh. I think he does that to Klobuchar. I think it's a different vibe for some reason. I don't think it works.
Klobuchar is the blandest candidate, which could work. Which could totally work. It may be harder.
I'm vanilla.
Yeah, you're sick of the clown show. I'm going to make things really quiet and chill and dull. You can go about your lives. And maybe in that environment, Trump's boorish behavior doesn't land in the same way because she's not as easily caricatured as an edgier candidate like Warren. But Klobuchar is not a wallflower. She has some ability to shiv. She does not care for Pete Buttigieg, and she mixes up with him very hard. But she's not a Warren. I mean, she's not that fire breathing, and I don't think her post New Hampshire performances, debate and otherwise, are super strong. You might argue they're, B's.
Well, I feel like, I mean, obviously Pete and Amy are now in the same lane.
Yeah.
And the problem is, I think Amy has upped her game. I think she has gotten better. But Pete's really good. And so I don't see, it's, neither of them can own that lane because they're both, I mean, they're holding their own against each other. And so I don't see how one person could overcome and sort of become that centrist candidate.
Well, I'm sort of tempted to suggest that they've both been dragging each other down and hitting each other's weaknesses.
Okay.
I mean, Klobuchar did screw up in the Telemundo interview, and I think she has paid a price for it. Warren's trying to give her a lifeline, notwithstanding, and now her stuff with her prosecutorial record has come up, and she does not have good answers for that. And the fact that as much as Buttigieg has to kind of get down in the mud with Klobuchar, that cuts against his super bright, sunny, optimistic, Obama-esque image he's trying to build up for himself. Now, look, Obama had his sharp elbows too. You do have to do both things. I'm not saying he's not doing what's necessary in that kind of environment, but when they're all struggling to consolidate the moderate lane, and their weaknesses are all being harped upon, it becomes hard for everybody. And that's why I don't think any of them are going to be a clear second. I shouldn't say that, because maybe if you can be ahead a little bit in Nevada because it's a caucus, because votes get reallocated, maybe that gets magnified. But my sense is that Biden, Buttigieg, Klobuchar all have their chunks, and it's really a game of inches who's going to eke it out and be number two.
So this thing's on Saturday.
Yeah. And we might not know the results on Saturday, by the way.
What's that?
We might not know the results on Saturday if it becomes another Iowa, cluster.
Right. And that's what I was going to ask. Like, what do you know about the way you mentioned allocating delegates, and what do you know about the logistics and the details of this?
Well, I can't say I know it inside and out, but it's been reported as that it's more complicated than Iowa. They have an early vote component, which Iowa did not have, and it's a ranked choice voting early vote component where you're given 5 choices and you have to do at least 3. If you don't fill out 3, your vote is discarded. But apparently you could do Bernie, 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 or you could do Bernie uncommitted, and then the vote will count.
Wow. Sounds like a nightmare.
And you have to, merge those calculations with the day of caucus vote, which is like in the gymnasium, going to different corners of the room and all that stuff. They trashed the app they were going to use because it was the Iowa app, so they junked it and built up site from scratch using Google Forms. And there is some dueling reporting on how hard it has been for them to train the precinct workers on this new system. Some anecdotal evidence is, man, this training was terrible, and some reporting is, oh, this was a little tricky, but it's not so bad. But there is some talk that it's going to take some time to sift through all this data, and it might not be fully tabulated on Saturday.
And then South Carolina is 9 days later. Is that right?
7 days later. It's a Saturday, another Saturday. Super Tuesday is 10 days later.
Oh, so Super Tuesday is right after
South
Carolina?
Right after. So it's Nevada this Saturday, debate on Tuesday, South Carolina primary Saturday, Super Tuesday, the following Tuesday, 3 days, no breather. I mean, that's why, if Biden pulled off the Nevada 2, South Carolina 1, there's not a lot of space for some other intervening development to occur. So I would think that would put him in very good stead, especially because you got a number of southern states. Not so much deep south. You do have Alabama. You got more upper south, Arkansas, Tennessee, North Carolina, Virginia, Oklahoma, if you want to count Oklahoma and Texas, if you want to count them as south. So I think that would be a good situation for him. If he didn't pull it off, if South Carolina was some kind of splinter cluster, it's hard if anybody really gets a big bump out of that. I mean, maybe if it was a Buttigieg or a Steyer, that might mix things up. Obviously, if Bernie could sneak through both, win them both, that would put him in a very good spot for Super Tuesday. There's not going to be a lot of there's no debate between the two. There's nothing like this, like last night, which can kind of make you forget about what happened in New Hampshire because it feels like it's a new game in town.
When in New Hampshire feels like it was 6 months ago. I mean, by now, right? I mean, just in the pace of our news cycle. So, wow. Okay, super interesting. So you think it's a fight for second place in Nevada? You think Bernie probably has it?
Yeah, I mean, well, especially because there's so much early vote banked. Even if you thought Bernie had a bad night, I mean, there's a whole bunch of Bernie votes in there that can't change their votes. So I think Bernie is. I can't know if he's going to win with another 26%, or he's going to win with more like a 35%. But it sure looks like he's going to win. And if you can't come in second or a very close third, you're going to be an afterthought by South Carolina. I mean, maybe I think it's a very big maybe that Biden has enough loyal support in South Carolina to hang on to 25%, even if he had a fourth place. But man, that's a hell of a bet to take. You feel, and there's anecdotal evidence that people in South Carolina already are shopping around because they're not so sure about his viability. So he'd much rather do better.
I'm going to state the obvious here, but. Look, this thing could be muddled and it could go to a contested convention. But I think, at the risk of stating the obvious here, the next 10 days, 10 days from now, when we're doing this podcast, 10 days from now or whatever, we will have had Nevada, South Carolina, and Super Tuesday. And
nearly half the delegates selected.
That's big.
I mean, I guess, and what I think is, I generally endorse the idea of a front-loaded primary. Try to get to a nominee as quick as you can. Don't have this be dragged out and have a lot of bloodletting. Unfortunately, I think we're in a situation where most of the candidates have not gotten a thorough vetting before Super Tuesday. And so people on Super Tuesday are going to be making decisions based on incomplete information, which is crazy. This has been a year-long primary. The value of having a long primary season, which everybody whines and moans about, is so there's plenty of time to vet all the candidates. Okay.
I don't get. Bloomberg, who is potentially trying to buy the election, who hasn't been vetted.
I think he's the most glaring example, although he's gotten kind of like a quickie vetting that perhaps may be sufficient to knock him out of the box. But I think Biden and Warren have gotten vetted the hardest and have taken the most lumps for it. Bernie is sort of an odd case. I think there's lots of media vetting of Bernie. If you want to look for the information on Bernie, you can find it. There's a lot out there.
Yeah.
But the candidates have not driven it. And so it hasn't been amplified the way that it was for Biden and for Warren. And for Buttigieg and Klobuchar, it's pretty scant. And
this goes back to what I've been harping on this show for months, is the comparison to 2016 on the Republicans, where Bernie Sanders is the Donald Trump candidate, where everybody's fighting each other and somehow Donald Trump goes unscathed, right? So like Jeb and Rubio are fighting each other. Ted Cruz is actually saying good things about Donald Trump and propping him up, and Trump amazingly kind of skates without taking as much criticism.
Well, I mean, even though I think there was a fair amount of reporting out there about Trump, it wasn't like he was a total unknown.
Right. But I mean,
but the candidates weren't driving it.
Right.
People that Bernie wasn't vetted, say anti-Bernie people. And people will say, "What are you talking about? He's been called a socialist and the trip to the Soviet Union, and everyone has been picking this stuff apart for years." And like they're both right, because if the candidates don't drive it, it doesn't seep into the public consciousness in the same way. It doesn't get repeated and recycled in the media the way it does a single individual story.
Bloomberg did a little. Bloomberg's the only guy to really do it, and he only did it a little bit last night.
Right.
Hitting Bernie.
So I think so we may get a situation on Super Tuesday where Democrats wake up in the morning and say, "What the hell did we just do?" Whether because someone actually does become the de facto nominee, or it's because they couldn't decide on a nominee, and they've put themselves on a path to a contested convention when they would have preferred maybe a bit more time to sort it out and not be stuck with that kind of scenario.
All right. Well, another award-winning show, Bill. What do you want to plug?
I got nothing to plug. I mean, I did have a piece in Politico last week that was called "Hey Moderates, you need to compromise with yourselves." If I may say, gotten a Chuck Todd shout out on Meet the Press on Sunday
Nice.
in her interview with Amy Klobuchar.
Did he mention Bill Scher, or is it Politico magazine?
My name was on the screen.
Okay, that's good.
So I'll take that.
That's good.
So, and it does sort of, and what is in there that didn't get talked about a lot is we all know moderates are divided, but I got into why moderates are divided. And I think the main divide is the insider-outsider divide. A certain kind of moderate likes the Washington experience candidates, Biden and Klobuchar. A certain kind of moderate likes the Obama-style high-energy, youthful outsider. And that's why it's hard for them to unite, because they don't have a big divide over policy, but they have a divide over the kind of candidate they want to see and who they think can best win and who can best govern. And Bloomberg, on one hand, is an outsider mayor candidate like Buttigieg, and you saw that last night where he's blaming Bernie for the tax code as if like it's his fault that the Republican tax code got passed because he's been in Washington for 25 years. But if it was the case that Biden and Klobuchar flamed out by Super Tuesday, it wouldn't mean a uniting around Buttigieg as the outsider, because if you're experience-minded, you might say Buttigieg is just a bridge too far. As Buttigieg says, Carter, Clinton, Obama, they weren't Washington creatures. But South Bend mayor is pushing the argument a bit too much to its outer limit. Bloomberg at least has more experience than you. I'm going to gravitate over to him. So there's no way for that divide to be perfectly healed in time for Super Tuesday, and that's why there can't be just one. Someone might do it better than the rest and do it well enough, especially if Bernie can't fully consolidate the left and Warren gets back in the mix. But that's why I think it's hard for them to really fully coalesce.
Check out my columns at the Daily Beast. The last three I've written have been very focused on this Democratic race, which is a departure from most of my Trump commentary this year. So I wrote one about the case for Amy Klobuchar. I wrote one about why Democrats might choose Mike Bloomberg as an authoritarian of their own, which would be ironic since in many ways he's like Donald Trump. And I wrote one about how both Bloomberg and Bernie are in some ways replicating in the Democratic Party a hollowed out institution, a political party that no longer can select its own nominee. How Bloomberg and Bernie are both sort of doing what Trump did, a hostile takeover of a political party. So check that out at the Daily Beast. Now all down, they're all liberated from behind the paywall. So get them while they're hot.
Excellent. Always good to talk to you, Matt Lewis.
Always good to talk to you, Bill Scher.
And I will see you next week after the South Carolina debate, probably.
In the DMZ, when things will be heating up.
All right. Take care.
See you.